Hi, my name is Elios and I make animations. In today's video, we're going to talk about this animation, not the whole project, just this one sequence, because I really like this sequence and I am in love with it. I'm just excited for this whole thing whenever it's done or whenever it's finished, and I just want to talk about it, right? The intention of this video is to give you an informative analysis as an animator myself. Just a credibility here. I animated for more than 9 years. Most of that 9 years is self-taught. I am still studying, graduating in school about anime, studying that, and also I already worked in a studio. So those are my experiences. So you can take my word as a professional and also as a grain of salt if you want to. Again, I'm just open to saying things wrong also, so you can correct me whenever I am wrong, because anyone makes mistakes most of the time, especially if you're on the internet. So before we proceed, just in case you don't know what you're looking at and you click on this video accidentally, or it is an autoplay or something, this animation you're looking at right now is a fan-made animation about VTubers fighting each other. And if you have no clue what I just said there, welcome to the rabbit hole. Anyways, this fan-made animation is made by Mazumaro, or Mazumaro. I don't know how to say it correctly, I'm sorry. I'll just say Mazu at this point. I put his link on his Twitter and his channel and all that stuff. Make sure to check out the stuff. So yeah, let's proceed. So the first shot we have here is Ina throwing her tentacles at Calli. Without context, that sounds yabai, but let's just throw that out there. So the first thing I notice here is the tentacles are animated in different intervals. Don't worry if you don't know that, and of course if you do know that, the video is time coded, so you can skip this part. I'm gonna explain to you the technicalities of animation. Most animations are played in 24 frames per second. That is the standard frame rate for most animation. Now, 24 frames per second doesn't technically mean 24 drawings per second. Now, the frame in animation terminology is used as a time frame, no pun intended. So when a director says that this drawing stays for 12 frames, that means that that drawing stays half a second, because 24 frames divided by 2, 12, so there you go, half a second. So what we have here as an example is that this one here, the leftmost ball, is played one frame at a time, which is 24 frames per second, so that means new drawing each time. The one in the middle is on 2s, which each drawing would stay for 2 frames, and the last one here is on 3s, which the drawing stays for 3. And as I play this here, you'll be able to tell how different they are and how they move and how fast most movement, and it really depends on what you're animating. But magically, Mazumaro is a god himself for some reason, because this is animated in 30 FPS, I think. I'm not sure, but he is working differently. The workflow is different. So what we have here in the foreground is 2D drawing, and the background is 3D Blender. I'm not sure if after he put all his assets, this stuff, compositing and Blender, it changed into 30 FPS or something, but whatever. So what I mean about different intervals is that you notice that the tentacles on the foreground are animated separately as things stay in place on the background while the others moves differently. That's a good way to convey a continuous movement. Now, Akira used this. If you don't know, Akira was widely acclaimed that it was animated on once most of the time, but there were techniques like this employed around, especially on the motorcycle chase, which gives the effect that it is animated on once. Now, another thing I like to mention is the frame here, like the, what do you call this? The smear? Yeah, smear frame. Well, it's not really a frame, but smear drawing. This is where I mean about people confusing the word frame and drawing. So yeah, I'm also doing that, which doesn't help. So the smear drawing here, the part where the tentacle is drawn like this, that is a smear drawing. Some people also says blur. Now I just want to get this out here. It's not to correct you guys, I know it is somewhat the same term, but the blur effect, just to get technical here, the blur effect is when the pixel is blurry, is what I'm trying to say. This is just an emulation of how a camera shutter speed doesn't catch the image that it's trying to capture. So that's why it's like invisible, but because we are drawing, you know, this stuff, we need to emulate that in a way. And Mazumaro decided to add the blur effect and the smear drawing, which is good. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people, like some animators, don't feel great about that because in Last Airbender Avatar, they did that a lot, and that was because they were outsourcing their animators from Korea, and they did the smear effects, like they drew the smear, and the editors decided to put blur in them. And some people who are into animation who notices that, that's really sad because, you know, animators put so much time and effort to draw, you know, all those swiggly lines like this, inconsistency, and they just decided to blur it. And here, I'm not saying that this is bad, all right? I'm just saying that because Mazumaro is alone by himself and he decided to do this, that's up to him. There's nothing wrong with that. It looks good as it is, and it works very fine because there is another effect that he's trying to emulate here, and you might not notice it because it's really hidden very well. What he's trying to emulate here is the depth focus in a camera. So if you have a DSLR and you play around with the lens, you can focus in this one particular side or one particular part of the frame or of the image, and the things near you are blurry, or the things far you is blurry. So you'll notice here that in this frame, if I go frame by frame, this is a bit clearer, and then it decides to make it blurry, which means that this tentacle here off in the foreground is gonna be really close in front of us, as much as like a streak of line going across of us. So yeah, so let's play this part and you'll see how all those techniques employed very well in an instant. The tentacles are moving in different frame rate, which gives off the feeling of continuous movement, and he did cut off his work because he was animating at different intervals and all that stuff. All the smearing effect, it gives the weight because of the camera shaking alongside with the depth of field. We feel that most of the tentacle that are really big and just a streak of line are really near us and almost covering the screen. That's a lot of techniques employed there. Now this is just the first shot. We haven't even gone to the part that I really want to talk about. So let's go on with that. So this is the part that I want to talk about, and you'll be surprised because I am trying to learn, and this is the way I learn, just by looking at other animators frame by frame. Now this part here where Calli is slicing and dicing the tentacles, you'll see, let's count how much drawings Mazu did here. The amount of drawings that we're going to count is the amount that Calli changed her pose. So here we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That's 17 drawing to convey this movement, and it really flows very well, and it's connected to each poses. And how did he do that? Let's dive into this. So first things to look at is the trail of the Deathsythe. That really helps to connect the flow and the movement. Another thing I'd like to point out is the foot placement. Now I know for some degenerate this is like, oh, let's look at the foot, but you know, just throwing it out there so that you guys are no longer gonna make that joke, or I guess I just made that joke and nobody was thinking about that. So the foot placement is really good because she is running and also the camera is moving across. So it's not that it's important to keep that in the same place, but rather it continues the flow of the movement. So let's see here. Calli is running forward. This is her right leg, and she plants her right leg here. Keep that, your eye there, and also keep track of the trail of the Deathsythe, which probably was borrowed from Star Wars. I'm not so sure if that is a thing. Also, I'd like to mention the depth of focus here. Calli is not really blurry, and most of the tentacle are blurry and all that stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of things being employed here. The leg, again, right leg planted, swooping left leg, as you can see from here, going step, like it's not really sidestep, but more of like swooping, like spinning, spin. So there you go. And I really like the curve of the Deathsythe here. As you can see, left, this is the left leg, and then the right leg, and then she slid across. So this action is carried through, as you can see. Like if I'm flipping through the frames here, you see the curve there. It's really good. And then she spun again, like going here. And this leg, keep an eye on that. This is the right leg again. And jump. Now, this frame here, if he wanted to, he could have done another drawing which goes lower to give more anticipation for the backflip or the jump, but he didn't need to, because the way is that this tentacle is going in front of her and she needs to avoid it, and at the same time she sliced it, and now the tentacles are in front of us. And because the tentacle is moving really fast, you know, he could have done a different interval here, but it's not needed when you're playing it. As you can see here, like, you know, it goes instantaneously. So there you go. So we have the jump. The jump helps slicing the tentacle, and then it gets covered by this, I think. So there you go. And then we have the spinning death helicopter. So slicing here, and then he uses this as an anchor for spinning Calli, like she's going down here. So there you go, gymnastics, and then landing. Now this is really important for those who likes to animate or want to try animating, flipping and all that stuff, and you don't want to animate or draw all the frames. You can use this as a technique. Whenever somebody lands, you want them to land with their knees bent, because if you land with straight legs, where else does the energy, the kinetic energy would go? You need to spring that. And after that, we have a strut pose. See, like she's like walking like a badass. And then we have a sidestep to avoid this tentacle falling down. Now, of course, amidst to all this chaos, it doesn't make any sense if it goes by really fast, like I see here. It's only making sense right now because I am going through frame by frame, but just going through like, oh, this is happening, all right, that's happening, this is what's going to happen next. But technically, if you're looking at this straight ahead, it just works flawlessly, like it's immaculate. So there you go. Next shot is the throwing Deathsythe, and then the slow motion. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm making my sound effects here. I'm like a kid again. So this here, you'll see that the focus is again being employed. Really good technique. It does give off that professional, you know, animator level. And then we have the Naruto. I'm pretty sure that is like referencing Naruto thing where they transform to weapons or something. Anyways, this is a really good pose. Slow motion takes a lot of time. I mean, that's just me, how I observe whenever I do some slow motion. But it also depends on the pose that you're doing and also how detailed the character is. Right here, we don't have, you know, Calli's face, so that's fine. You don't need to redraw that. And she is like in 3/4. Yeah, the angle of the character, which is fine. And most of the parts that she is drawn into is black and white, so it's really good use to cut down work again. So that's really smart. And then we have an impact frame here, which is beautiful. Like, it's just, it is what it is. And then we have the light beam of ray and explosions. Now you might notice that this is the only explosion that has been drawn in this whole project. Now I'm not sure, he might add more later on, but I'm pretty sure after he learned how to do explosions with the smoke simulator in Blender, or I don't know which program, in a different program, probably still in Blender, he used that to cut corners again, which is fine. That's all right. You don't need to be consistent about everything, especially if you're cutting corners and you're just by yourself working on this, and you really have to be smart with whatever you're working on. So I admire the experimental in a way, in a sense there. So just keep that in mind. You'll probably notice that because I mentioned that now, that most of his smokes effects are simulated after that, but it still looks cohesive. Like, it doesn't disconnect you from the whole project because it just looks beautiful as it is. That's all I think for this video. I hope you learn and pick up some few things here and there. If not, I'm sorry, I just rambled a lot and I just fanboyed on this one animation. If you like this video, leave a like, and I didn't put any ads on it because I'm pretty much just reacting to this video and I don't like putting ads on other people's work. Have a nice day and see you later.